Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's 1:38 p.m. on Saturday, the 25th of April 2026. Shabbat Shalom. I've had as I posted in the community section of YouTube, and I also posted, as I normally do, on Facebook and Instagram. I've had a busy morning renovating or remaking my wind chime and adding things to it and removing rusty chains, and some of the rusty chains I've left on, but I've ordered from eBay. I hope they're the right size, some marine grade stainless steel chain, so I can replace the rusty ones, and hopefully the marine grade stainless steel chain, if it really is marine grade, because you don't know what you're getting when it comes from China. Hopefully, I'm cynical, I know, but hopefully it lasts a bit longer than the cheap chains that I've been making things with. I've been making things using up old market stock from my mother, so old chain like that, and of course over time it corrodes. But yes, as I wrote on, I've posted on community, it was a very spiritual morning this morning. I woke up, early, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, which is lovely, but it was a bit unusual given how unwell I've been feeling and how tired I've been. And oh yes, I got up, and the first thing I did after taking the covers off the bird cages and changing their water, was I went and painted the edges of my grimoire I've been working on. I've only got 12 pages to go, so that's 2 more days worth of work, because I've got to wait for it to dry and do 2 coats, so it's a pain in the tuchus. But I'm nearing completion, so I'm happy about that. It's all looking very nice. So anyway, I was working on that. I do 6 pages at a time now. I've tried to increase the production line slightly. And after I finish painting that, I've got to wait for it to dry so I can apply a second coat. So I came in here and was just sort of randomly listening to YouTube channels as I do, and commenting in the comment sections accordingly as I want to do. And all of a sudden I got this urge to go and work on the wind chime, which I normally have hanging at my front entry to my front door, but I had moved it at Halloween. I moved it out on the hanging off the arbour, which goes over my front gate. And it's a rainy, miserable day, and I thought, why today, of all days, do I want to do that? And I'd bought these little bells. They're not actually stainless steel. I bought them thinking they were stainless steel, and I was a bit pissed off when they arrived, because they're not. They're just some sort of zinc alloy. But one was shaped like Odin, even had the eye patch and the kind of feathers hanging off the top of his helmet, how they imagine the Viking gods looking like. Who knows what he really looks like? We know he has one eye though, because he sacrificed an eye when he hung from the Yggdrasil tree, and in return for that he was gifted the runes. That's the law anyway. But anyway, he's rather lovely, even though I'm annoyed that he's not actually stainless steel. Don't know how I'm going to get a stainless steel one, to find someone that can smelt one for me. I could try and make him in sterling silver, but I don't know how I'd do that, because there's the void in the middle of the bell. And oh well, anywho, it's a disappointment. But anyway, so I brought, I finally thought, well, I bought these little bells, the other ones, Viking symbolism of all the directions. I don't know, that I've forgotten the name of that But anyway, I thought, well, I'll hang them up on the wind chime. So I went out to retrieve the wind chime from the front gate. And I looked up, and one of my little Chinese feng shui, I've got two. One hangs at the front of the arbour and one hangs at the back. So they're juxtaposed, you know, like that, above your head. And the fairies actually really love bells. So that's why I've got little bells all over the house. I figure it makes lovely sounds and it's sweet and a bit enchanting. Anyway, I was surprised to see that one of the feng shui bells, the front one, was missing. I thought, oh, someone walking past the gates ripped it down, you know, taken it, stolen it. So for a moment I stood there shaking with rage. And then something said to me, it was very intuitive this morning, it was odd. I'm like that sometimes though. Something said to me, no, it's not stolen. Go and look down in the bottom of the garden, you might find it. And I figured, well, if it's not there, it's stolen. But anyway, I did. I obeyed the instruction. And I looked down into the garden underneath my arbour where the climbing rose climbs up, right next to the letterbox, which it kind of was hanging above. So I figured trajectory, you know, where would it have fallen to? And it was sitting there on the garden. And the odd thing is, I haven't been to my actual front gate in a few days' time, for days, because I haven't been for a walk, and that's the only time I go through the front gates. Because if I leave the house, normally I go through the driveway gates because I'm moving the car in and out. Anyway, I thought, that's interesting. How long has that bell been fallen down? And why today of all days was I called, almost under direct orders, although not really because I didn't know what was going on, but I felt called, kind of. It was a kind of a, you know, an urge to go and do it today, to go out to the gate and bring the wind chime in. And by doing that, I discovered that the other bell was fallen down. And they rust out, as I say, so the chains rust out. So I retrieved it and I brought it back here to my bench, and it took a bit of fiddling about, but I managed to remake the feng shui bell. I had to hook the hanger back in and into the actual bell itself, and then I had some scrap chain left over from when I shortened the birdie boys that's behind me, chain that hangs their swing on. Can't quite see it. So I had little pieces of that, 2 pieces, so I joined them back together and used that to hang the bell up, and I was really happy about that because it's like recycling, upcycling stuff I've already got lying here that wasn't being used. So I was really thrilled about that. I thought, you clever woman, Tanya Aarons. I'm very impressed with you, I must say. So anyway, I did that, and then I worked on the I worked on the wind chime first. So I put the Odin bell and the other Viking bell on just some, it was actually a broken, not a broken, I had to break it apart, but an old necklace that was in the old, you know, market stock that I haven't thrown everything out, and sometimes bits and pieces come in handy for upcycling or reusing in other ways. But I was a bit reluctant because it'll just rust and rot out, which is why I've bought some stainless steel chain. But you know, it'll come, it'll arrive when it arrives, and I can swap it over when, probably put it aside and wait to swap it over when it rusts out again. Make use of what I've already made. So anyway, I worked on that little wind chime, and then I was so happy about it, and I hung the wind chime back in my front door entry, so it's near my front door. And I think I moved it because it was making so much tinkling noises that it got on my nerves. But, you know, I've moved it back to my front door. We'll see how we go with that. And then I got a step ladder I have, and I got up on the ladder and I put the feng shui Chinese bell back up. So then I was like a little child. I was all happy and proud of myself and gleeful. And I put the ladder away, came back inside. Here's the really freaky, odd thing. So the symbols of the bells I was working with, one was Chinese feng shui, and the other two little bells, they're called guardian bells, and they're meant to hang off your motorbike to give you extra protection when you're riding your bike. Just sweet, you know. Never drive faster than your angels can fly, babies. But anyway, actually my friend Peter Sloan had suggested I buy those little bells. And I said, oh, do you want one for yourself? He said, no, I've already got one. So it was unusual. It was very unusual because he's not spiritual. He's Christian, but doesn't believe in spiritual things per se. Whereas his wife is very spiritual like me. So it was unusual that he suggested I buy them, and I even looked at him a bit funny because I was like, that's a very unusual suggestion coming from him in particular. Anyway, I did buy them. I bought them some months ago, and then they've literally been sitting on my kitchen bench for 2 or 3 months because sometimes things just get put in a place and I just leave them there. I'm weird like that. And so every time I go and make a cup of tea, I look at them and I think, I should do something with those bells. And then I walk away and forget about it. And this happens, you know, at least once or twice a week. So the odd thing was today, of all days, I decided to put those little bells on the wind chime, which is what I had bought them for, to go on that wind chime. So, here's where it gets freaky, people of Earth. Really quite freaky. So down the street from me are a lovely family. I actually really like them, but we don't socialise that often or anything, you know, but they're very sweet people. And the wife is Chinese and the husband is born in Australia, but both his parents are from Finland. So Finland, as you know, is one of the countries that the Vikings conquered back in, you know, 800 AD to, you know, when did they leave there? 1000 AD, or they spread out. They went to France and came over with the Norman conquest as Normans. But anyway, it's all a bit complicated, isn't it? But anyway, so here we have the Chinese energy and the Viking energy, because I always stir him up. He's a Christian too, probably Lutheran, if the truth be known. But I mean, I don't care what religion anybody is. I really don't. I don't discriminate against anyone. You have your path, I have mine. Even the dark-sided ones, unless you're trying to actively do black magic on me or curse me or hex me or actually do me harm, don't have a problem with you. You have your path, I have mine. But fuck with the Tanya, all hell breaks loose, babies. But anyway, I'm just reminding some of my viewers that come Luciferian or Satanistic, and like I say, don't have a problem with that. And harm you none, do what thou willest. So if they actively try to harm me, that things go very bad very quickly. Says she who's had all her teeth right out of her head recently. So and maybe that is partly all their conjoined evil intent towards me. We won't be too glib about it, will we? But what they conveniently forget, is although I am a Jew and a witch and a shaman, I actually have lineage. My mother's biological father was a very, very powerful witch. So powerful that people came from all over Europe, people being the Roma, gypsy people, came from all over Europe once a year to study with him all through the night, which is a strange thing. My mother told me about this. It was pre-Nazi Germany, of course, because the Roma were murdered, slaughtered, just like Jewish people were. But today is Anzac Day, so I remember all victims of war on all sides of the war, because all wars are hell, and I don't agree with any of it, including the current wars being conducted in our modern day society. Anyway, where was I going with that? I've lost my thread. Oh yes, so my biological grandfather, whom I never met because I was born in 1965, and I'm not sure when exactly he died. I know my biological grandmother, my mother's mother, died in 1949, and my grandfather that raised my mother from infancy, from birth, was he died of TB and on my actual birth date, 12th of April, but in 1945. So I don't know when my actual natural biological grandfather died, but I know from the stories handed down to me by my mother that he was a very, very, very powerful witch. But anyway, I'm digressing a little bit there. Oh yes, I was on the subject of people cursing and hexing me, and I'm just like, I wouldn't recommend it, motherfuckers. You don't know what you unleash when you attack me, because I've got spiritual protection, and I've also got lineage, ancestral protection. And like I said, I never met that grandfather, but I did go to a medium many years ago. He was a very famous medium here in Brisbane. Jason McDonald was a very good medium. So we're talking back in a long time ago, before I think I even left my marriage, because he kept telling me, your marriage is over and stop going to other fortune tellers because they're all going to tell you the same thing. I said, how do you know I'm seeing other fortune tellers? He said, I know, Spirit told me. It was that good. Anyway, so I went to see him a second time in the very early, probably it was the second time I saw him was after I had left my marriage, a few years after. And I took a photo of my biological grandfather because I was curious to see what he might pick up about him, more information either from him in the spirit realm or any intuitions he might gather up. Anywho, so what happened was he looked at the photo and then he looked at me, and he was a bit distracted that day. He was in the middle of moving house and he was really stressed, so he was a bit off his game, quite frankly. And going to see him was very expensive even back in those days. But anyway, he just took the photo and looked at it and then looked at me, and he just keeps saying sorry over and over again. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I'm like, said to him, why would he have to say sorry to me? He wasn't even in my life when I was a child, so he could not possibly have protected me from, my mother and her pedophile henchman. No way is he responsible for any of that. He was long dead before I was even born. There was nothing he could have done to make my life better or different or what have you. He said, I don't know. He said he just keeps saying sorry. And I just nodded and accepted it, because I do that. I accept things at face value sometimes. So what can you do? There's nothing you can do about things. If you don't know the background of why people behaved a certain way, or their intentionality or their actions, then all you can do is accept their apology with dignity and grace and brush it off, because sometimes some people are so sorry that they're not sorry and they're perpetrators and continue on, and others are genuinely remorseful. So it was a bit strange having that happen coming from the spirit realm. Oh yes, I know where I digressed. I was talking about the Roma people that came to visit my biological grandfather. So studying with him all night long, what they were studying, I can only assume, was what knowledge he was imparting to them about the occult. The other interesting thing is there is a particularly holy day in Judaism. It happens on the festival of Shavuot, which is the giving of the festival of the giving of the law on Mount Sinai. So on that particular festival, I think the first night is also a night spent studying Torah and or Talmud all night long. The particularly Chabad Lubavitch, mainly men, they discouraged the women to join them. I did join them for a while, but then they sent me home because they didn't like me being there all night long. There was nothing sexual about it at all. I was there to learn and study, but they got uncomfortable, me being the only female sitting there, and sent me home, and I went home because accept at face value and don't rock the boat, although I was a bit pissed off because I wasn't there in any kind of, with any intentionality of seducing or attracting men. I was there to study. So I was a bit pissed off about being sent home, but that's okay. You know, the ultra-Orthodox have got some very weird ideas about females in general, and it's their culture, so you just accept and walk away with dignity, or comply with dignity, but depending on the circumstances, you understand. Anyway, it just struck me as a bit odd that my grandfather, Anton Petula, happened to have the same tradition, passing on knowledge on one particular night of the year. I have a feeling, though, in his case, the Roma people came four times a year, I think my mother said, but it must have been connected to some kind of spiritual or religious type date in the calendar, that it was so important and potent that they all visited. My mother said they would park their gypsy caravans with the horses attached all around, you know, several blocks around his apartment. So that really piqued my interest, because I've always wondered what that was about, actually. I like to know what things are about. I get curious and I sometimes get a bit obsessed. I need to get down to the nitty-gritty and know what it was about. Anyway, so back to starting the story about, you know, my neighbour down the road being actually Viking. I stir him up whenever I see him. I go, "Hello, Viking." And he just giggles because, as I said, he doesn't particularly identify as a Viking because he's Christian, and, you know. But he's from Finland, and all Finland are, by definition, descendants of Vikings. So I'm not wrong to tell him that and tease him a little bit. It's not an insult. It's his ancestors are calling to him through little old Jewish me, which is hilarious, actually. It's amazing how the universe works. So here's the weird thing. I was called or inspired or urged to go and hang up those little Viking bells, and then found the broken down Chinese feng shui bell. And so no sooner I'd hung them up and put the ladder away, I came in, and when I came in I walked a bit of twig or stick or something through the front door. So threw the front door open and I bent down, threw the stick out into the garden. And just as I did that, bending down, throwing the stick, which must have looked quite crazy to, my neighbours from down the road, they were walking down past with their little children. And as they got round, the front of my gate, I said, "Oh, hello." And they were like, "Oh, hello." And then Damon looked at me in all seriousness and he said, "We're off to get our vaccinations. There's a doctor in our neighbourhood. I don't approve of it at all, actually, but not my monkey, not my circus. Each to their own. You do you, I do me. Who gives free flu vaccines every year. Probably just now is the time before winter coming. And I actually don't approve of it because I just think it's odd, But he must put it an advertisement that he's going to do it in the local Facebook Gembox group, because they all seem to know when it's on and they all gather, and that's fine. I'm excluded from that too because of my views about mRNA and other malfeasances that were going on in that Gembox that I arced up about. Anyway, do I care? Do I look bothered? No. But anyway, so kind of have to laugh. I tried to rejoin it recently because I wanted to put in a request if anyone had newspapers that they'd finished that they might give to me to use for the birds, but they wouldn't let me rejoin. So I've been banned. And why have I been banned? Haven't done anything wrong, actually. Just for holding to my fucking truth. So anyway, fuck them. The whoever the admins are, probably connected to that vicious, nasty local member of parliament that I told not to darken my front doorstep ever again, my front gate ever again, who bragged about he'd made a lot of money from it, so what did he care, and skipped off down the street, the arsehole. Anyway, and it's very awkward because there's a lovely photo of me sitting together with him some years prior, I think the year prior to when COVID got unleashed. He was calling me up and inviting me to things. It was a bit odd. I didn't even know the man, really. Still find that all very odd. But there's a photo up on hopefully he's taken it off his website, but I still have the photo. It pops up in my memories occasionally on Facebook of me wearing my very elegant Maggie Shepherd and my top hat and sitting with that asshole. Well, if I'd known what he was going to endorse and unleash on our world for money, she admitted to me, did it for the money, asshole. I would never have had spoken to him even back then, but hindsight literally 2020. You don't know what you don't know, what people are capable of, do you? So anyway, this is going to be one of my rant and tan videos, and I wanted to get on with reading Alice Munro. So anyway, we go back. So the lovely family are going past, and I'm just for a moment got chills because I'm like, the Chinese and Viking, and they're going past my gate just as I just finished hanging up those lovely bells. And I thought, that's interesting. Anyway, I said to them, so what vaccination are you getting now? They know, all my local neighbourhood know that I disapproved of the COVID vaccines because I tried to warn them all. But they've all complied with it, and quite eagerly, like, oh dear goddess, I just look at them and think, oh dear goddess. But anyway, that's my viewpoint on it. So I don't impose my will on them. Free will, your body, your autonomy. You do what you want with your body. I don't care what anyone does with their body, as long as it doesn't expect the same of me. That includes sexual matters, health matters, drugs, medicines. You do what you want. You choose your poison in life. You choose your own lifestyle or your own obliteration. I don't care. It's not my business. But it doesn't mean I have to like it. That's what I'm saying. So anyway, as they're going past, the lovely wife, she really is a sweetheart. She's waving happily and children are waving. And Damon says, we're going for a vaccination. And I knew immediately they're going to that doctor that I don't exactly approve of his actions. Anyway, I just said, oh, which vaccination? And then very guiltily he looked at me and he said, I think the flu one. And I'm like, you don't even know what fucking vaccination you're signing up for when you're traipsing down to this thing. But I think he was just playing it a bit vague because he knew I'd be livid. I just looked at the children. It's the children I worry about the most because they don't have a say in what their parents are endorsing, putting into their body. I think that's what upsets me the most. Anyway, he saw my face go, because I'm not very good at hiding my emotions. And he nodded and I nodded. And I just said, oh, okay, bye. And off they traipsed. And I just thought about it afterwards. I thought, how odd. What would they have done if I started screaming, don't take any more mRNA into your body? Haven't you had enough with the 3 COVID vaccines? Like, by the gods. How much mRNA do they have to swill in themselves before they've realised it's not actually done them any good in the long run? How much denial do you have to be in? How much complacent, complicit, Eloy, Brave New World zombieism do you need to participate in? It just blows my mind. But what really blows my mind was, yes, the spirit realm making sure that I had those little bells out, and then within seconds of finishing that task, the Chinese and Viking energy of the lovely family going past telling me they're traipsing off to be vaccinated. Oh, well, goddess bless. No one wants to have the flu. But the thing is, it's what they're putting into the vaccines that worries me. I think it's more dangerous than the fucking flus now. But then we don't know how much of our flus are actually bioengineered like COVID was too. We don't really know what's going on. So I sit here in my little house with my little bells and my fairies who really rattled my cage this morning with all of that. They really did rattle my cage. And it's still raining and it's a bit cold today. But the sun's peeping out, so could improve. But I'm not going to start reading part 3 of For the Love of a Good Woman because it makes the videos far too long. And I'll just call this Mama T mRNA rant or something so you know what it's about and you can decide if you have the stomach to watch it or not. But I just wanted to talk about the spiritual synchronicity that happened this morning and me being, my intuition being so on point, even opening the door just as they were walking past. It was high strangeness or spooky action at a distance or something like that. Okay, on that note, Have a wonderful day, and no judgment. You have as many injections of things, whatever you think you need to keep you alive, and I will try not to. And, you know, you have your philosophy, I have my philosophy, and ultimately, eventually everyone dies anyway, so you have free will and choice, and the mama too has free will and choices. So I'm not doing this to coerce anyone into thinking, aligning with my thinking in any way, form or manner. I'm just saying that for me it was a bit bloody chilling and kind of horrific, and makes me fear for the children. Actually, the parents don't look at it that way. Of course, they think they're saving the children, and you know, maybe there's a good possibility that I really am wrong and crazy, and they really have saved their children. All I know is I had flu vaccines for quite some years. I stopped taking them about 10 years ago, and I stopped everything. I stopped psychiatric medications, I stopped the flu vaccines, and all I know is it could be just a coincidence, but gradually I got better. I didn't get flus as often anymore. You know, even my bronchitis, asthma has improved greatly, although that took a bit of a slump with all the tooth problems I've had. But I very rarely rely on Ventolin, you know, to help me breathe anymore. I'm a lot better, and it's since I stopped taking in all these extra, you know, substances that are designed to save my life or give me longevity or what have you, you know, whatever. All I know is correlation or causation or just sheer bloody luck. I've had less flus and I've been less frequently ill, and I just think, me personally, I don't want to have those kind of vaccines ever, ever, ever again. They did not enhance my immune system in any way. But, you know, if it works for my little family down the road and they're happy and they think that keeps them all safe, then more power to them. I am deeply worried about them, to be honest. All of them that all had all those other COVIDian vaccines as well. It worries me. But you see, they're so happy and joyful about it that they're oblivious and they don't worry, and so they're not spitting their teeth out like chips like I am, and they're not at the mercy of draconian, evil, sadistic health professionals, and they're fine. It's odd, isn't it? It's odd. What can I say? Life goes on. Mama T remains as defiant and carefree and wild and human as she can possibly manage. Homo sapiens sapiens. Have a beautiful afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm.